was discovered during his pre-participation physical. After he arrived on campus, he will remain on scholarship and will continue to be part of the program. He played at Whitehaven High School in Memphis. He was named a preseason first-team All-State player by USA Today and one of the city's top 10 players by the Commercial Appeal newspaper in 2018. The Tennessee Titans have announced that they are retiring the jerseys of both former quarterback Steve McNair and running back Eddie George. That means the number 9 and number 27 will never be worn again. Start building your legend today. It's the Jeep Celebration event going on now at your local Jeep dealer. I'm Matt Pauley with the Sports Flash on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio.
There. We're on the air. It's hockey night tonight.
Yes, as that unmistakable music indicates, Stompin' Tom Connors. We have this because 1420 WEMB Sports Radio in a previous life was a country music station. We have Stompin' Tom Connors. Do we have Canadian country music in the archives there? Because we still have the old records, actually. That's something to check out, I guess. But the St. Louis Blues winning the Stanley Cup last night. And, everybody said it was going to be, who jumped out early? Well, that was the Blues in the first period. Still have Stompin' Tom. Come on, I got to get you ready at Stompin'. Nothing personal there. Got to get rid of Stompin' Tom. Nothing personal there. Yeah, you got to do that. Anyway, let's go to the final call of the Stanley Cup last night.
The St. Louis Blues have done it. They've done it. The Black Aces are out. The team has swarmed Jordan Binnington. The coaches are hugging and crying. I can't believe it. I cannot believe what I am witnessing right now. St. Louis, a team that was put together in the fall, new faces, new roles. They struggled and bent. And on the verge of breaking, they found their game after Christmas. They came together, they fought together, they won together, and now they are Stanley Cup champions together. This is not a dream. This is real life St. Louis. Let's party.
Yeah, what I used to say about St. Louis, first in shoes, first in booze, last in the American League. Well, that was when the St. Louis, that's a long, long, long time ago. St. Louis Browns, last year was 1953. But, all right, first in booze. They still make shoes in St. Louis? See, that makes the arch all the more appropriate, doesn't it? One way or the other. First in shoes, first in booze, and first in the National Hockey League? Yeah, I know. It was more fun to listen to Gloria. It really was. I got to give you that. Okay. Anyway, I was going to play what turned out to be really officially it wouldn't be the game-winning goal because that would be the one that Alex Pietrangelo scored after this one. But everybody said basically, whoever scored the first goal in the game was going to have a tremendous advantage. That's basically the way it had gone in this series. You score first, then you control the tempo and dictate the style of play for the rest of the game. Well, they still call it the Fleet Center. In Boston, that was Ryan O'Reilly in the first period last night.
Waits, straight away, Bouwmeester, slap shot, he scores! Jay Bouwmeester, with the puck deflected in front, has given the St. Louis Blues a 1-0 lead. Ryan O'Reilly might have had a piece of it, and with 3:13
Now, O'Reilly scored that goal. He won the Conn Smythe Trophy. I'll give you a little reason why after this. Of course, a lot of people thought Rask would if the Bruins won it, but no, they didn't. He allowed 4 goals, and including this goal by Alex Pietrangelo, who really was the early hero of the game.
Rico tries to eat it in the corner. They can't. And now it's broken up by the Blues. Cleared to Schwartz at the rim line. He'll dump it over the blue line. Stick handle into the corner. Leave it. Pietrangelo. He scores! Alex Pietrangelo! A backhand shot.
Okay, so they used Pietrangelo, not I'm sorry, I'm still remembering Frank Pietrangelo, who was a backup goalie for the Pittsburgh Penguins when they won their first Stanley Cup. He made this really huge save in the first round of the playoff series, all this, against the Devils, but that's a long time ago, so we won't go that way. Anyway, the Blues win the Stanley Cup. 52 years. Let's see here, the original 6, you had the Golden Seals, who are no more, and they merged with the Minnesota North Stars, who are no more. So they never got, they moved to Dallas and, all that. But that's, yeah, okay. You want to try to say, they won a cup? That's a little bit, I'm not big on that. Number 2, the Penguins, they've won 5. The Flyers, they're the Broad Street Bullies. They won 2 in the 70s. Who else were in the original expansion? I gave you 2. The Kings, they finally won one, start of the decade. They were part of the expansion of the second 6. And then you had the St. Louis Blues, who never, ever, ever, they played for the Stanley Cup the first 3 years of their existence. They could never win in any of 12 Stanley Cup Finals games. Scotty Bowman may be the greatest coach of all time, but he just it was Montreal and Pittsburgh for that matter, and that's what did it for him. Certainly Detroit as well. It wasn't in St. Louis. Anyway, the Blues, and to be honest with you, I really, some Predators fans, because they're the arch rival, but I think that rivalry is felt more in the western part of Tennessee. Let's face it, it's geographic there. Than it certainly is in the eastern part of Tennessee as being the Predators' rival. But one way or the other, to tell you the truth, I could care less about that. Not that that's being anti-Predators, that's being pro-starving sports fan getting the meal. 52 years without a Stanley Cup, it's your turn now. But more than that, the St. Louis sports fan, who, yes, has had some success with the Cardinals over the years, but, the Rams moved away. Their own Stan Kroenke turned out to be a carpetbagger. With Jerry Jones making the Hall of Fame for greasing the skids for St. Louis to not have an NFL team. That's not right. They've lost 2. Will they ever get one again? Who knows? But they have the cup. And that's big. St. Louis probably deserves more than 2 major professional sports franchises. I think you can easily say that. Heck, at one time, let's see here. Although they didn't get the NFL until 1960, at one time, no, I'm trying to think. They've always had 3. When I say always, they had 2 baseball teams for a period of time before the NFL came in there. When the Cardinals came in, there were the Cardinals, the baseball Cardinals. And then the Blues came around in 67. But I want to say the Hawks moved in 67 to Atlanta. So I don't think the Hawks and the Blues were ever in the same year. I could be wrong about that. There could be one year. I'm going from memory there. But they've always pretty much had the 3 teams, that sort of thing. And they did have the ABA Spirit of St. Louis. They did have that. So if you only count that as a 4th major franchise, okay. But nevertheless, now they're down to 2. And the Billikens to play basketball. A10, okay, that's legitimate, but I'm not sure that's that much better than the Southern Conference. Not to knock the Southern Conference, but hey, Davidson's in the A10 now, right? So, anyway, it was a rags to riches story. Remember the Blues, before they got Jordan Bennington, were only 1 point away from having the worst record in the NHL. They went out came 1 point away from winning the Central Division that went to the Predators. I do get the people that say, what did the regular season mean this year? You had Tampa Bay getting historically good, and 62 victories a record, and they couldn't advance out of the first round. I mean, St. Louis didn't win the division. You're supposed to get home ice in these the games are won on the road. What does the regular season mean? Well, at least in the case of St. Louis, it meant that you had to finish in the upper half of the league. Let's put it that way. And because it didn't look like they would be doing that earlier on in the year. In fact, their head coach, Craig Berube, talks about taking over the team early on in the year when Mike Yeo was fired.
Well, you don't think that far ahead at that time. I was just worried about the next game. That's the honest truth. I mean, but, we went through a lot as a team, and, we ended up battling our way into the playoffs. So then you start to think about
I'm sorry about that. You try to bring up some stats on another thing, they want to have a pop-up ad, and I do apologize for that. So, anyway, just wanted to say, the winner of the Conn Smythe, that's the playoff MVP, was O'Reilly, and you heard his goal. Ryan O'Reilly had 23 playoff points. That's the St. Louis Blues franchise record. Admittedly, they've never been this far. They've never played this many games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But, he is the first player since Wayne Gretzky. What do you think about that? In 1985, with the Edmonton Oilers to score in 4 consecutive Stanley Cup final games. And he's the first player since the New York Rangers' Mark Messier in 94 really carried the Blue Shirts on his back that year. And even when the Blue Shirts were down 3-2 in the conference finals, the Devils guaranteed a Rangers championship. And they hadn't won one in 54 years. And Messier came through. But anyway, Messier that year had a 6-game point streak in a Stanley Cup final. So did O'Reilly. No surprise then that O'Reilly was getting lots and lots and lots of praise from his coach.
Well, I think just looking, at his play all year long, his work ethic and his production for us all year, and then throughout the playoffs. I mean, he was just a relentless hockey player for a long time. Never quits, and just such a smart two-way player. He's a special player.
So he is, along with Jordan Binnington, the St. Louis Blues, the Stanley Cup champions of 2019. Gosh, Predators' arch rival wins it. When's a Tennessee team going to win a major pro sports title?
Marky, Billson for Asian House, home of the Happy Box meal, featuring plentiful appetizers,